Well, good afternoon and welcome back. And as we continue the citing from the Paralegal Help Guide, Wills Trust and Estate Administration, which is the Volume 6. And this is Cassandra Good Kitchen here with you, sponsored by Paralegal Services Incorporated. And we do stream live right here from Westminster, Colorado. Yesterday, we're glad that you could join us back. Yesterday, we had defined pretty much the functions of the probate court and exactly defining proceedings or actions or steps that the court take in connection with the depositions of a descendant's estate. And we did break down, as I said, several key terms. What is probate estate? What is the probate jurisdiction? And so forth. So, as you know, the function of the probate court and the assistance that is provided by the law, as well as the law firm's paralegal. So again, before we go further, let me reiterate that these books were intended for students who are on their journey as becoming paralegals. Again, some of the courses that we talk about are specialty courses. So basically it means you're going to need a little more education than just say the regular paralegal. Estate planning, wills, trust, and estate administration, as well as litigation assistantship, are two of the specialty courses that a paralegal needs additional education in. However, it doesn't matter how much education we receive. As paralegals, you still will be under the instructions of a licensed attorney so that you will know where and when to apply certain rules and regulations of the law. So with that being said, again, to the personal representative, if you are a personal representative of an estate, well, then you know that you are in charge of the descendant's estate, their property. Pretty much the property is what you are executor of. The concepts related to the will, trust, and estate administration. You will learn what interests exist in property and special concepts. Now, what is a special concept? Well, a special concept would be a special administrator who administrates some aspects of the estate of a descendant as opposed to a general administrator. Now, we define special in the legal term as a particular, for a particular purpose, distinctive, favored or selected, unusual, extraordinary. So again, and what a person would be in charge of as an administrator would be what interests exist in the property and special concepts. So do make sure you remember that's very important. Most states have community property. Most states are titled community property. And then you go into what is the purpose of a will? Well, you will be taught the purpose. It will introduce you to laws of succession, the consequences of death with or without a will. So let's go back and find out succession. Let's define that. Well, it's the passing of property of a descendant by deed or by inheritance as opposed to taking by title, by deed, grant, gift, or contract. And again, being under the instructions of a licensed attorney, when you are drafting a will, you will know exactly where and how to apply this information. Again, there are consequences to having a will as well as not having a will. So again, as I said, I think in the earlier definition last week earlier, I certainly wouldn't try to draft a will on my own without the supervision of an attorney. And I don't think too many people do. But if you do, you may still want to check with a licensed attorney to make sure, because as you know, the concept of inheritance rights, that's very broad. And that is some of the information that is included in your estate planning. And inheritance rights is defined as a fundamental right that a person has by virtue or just by being born into the descendant's estate. And the will substitutes. Now, again, under the instructions of an attorney, when a paralegal is drafting or going over for their attorney, there is certain language, as I've mentioned before, throughout all of the paralegal help guides, that the legal system use. They recognize it. It's a little different than the layman terms, people that you and I, or those who do not study or practice law. So again, what is a will substitute? When would that come into play? Well, that's defined as a person that stands, or a thing that stands in the place of another person or another thing. Wills and their validity requirements. Well, that's defined as, you want to make sure when it comes to the substitutes, when it comes to a will, it is defined as an administrator or a DBN, or substitute executor, a person named in a will, to act as an executor in the event the first person named cannot serve or they refuse to serve. So that's when the substitute would come into play. Okay, they would basically, what it's saying is, they would not necessarily be the first choice, but they came as a second choice to stand in place of the first executor of the descendant's estate. Now, this explains the components of a valid will, how a will is created, who must sign a will. All of this is very important in order to have a valid will drafted. How the will may be modified or revoked, and who may contest the authenticity of that will. You will learn how preparing to draft a will. The will explains how a paralegal gathers your information from a client whose will is to be prepared. Drafting and executing a will. And again, we will get more into the definitions as the week goes on, but you want to make sure that when you are gathering your notes, if you take the specialty as an additional course in your paralegal studies, you want to make sure that you have your notes in a collective manner on the topic of wills, trust, and estate administration. So again, just to reiterate, this is a brief synopsis of wills, trust, and estate administration. The pages are formation is designed for notes. I'm hoping this will familiarize paralegals with the vocabulary of wills, trust, and estate administration, and briefly describes the purpose of wills and trusts. Now, as mentioned above, pages are formatted for notes on the subject topic. This will aid you by keeping all of your notes in one collective place. And yes, we learn a lot in the 2 years of just studying law to become a paralegal. So again, if you want a specialty, additional education, then you take specialty courses, and these books are designed just for that. Again, this is estate planning and administration, which introduces you to estate planning. So with that being said, as I mentioned again, we will later on in the week go over a couple more very important key terms and definitions when it comes to drafting a will for your client under the instructions of a licensed attorney. So we thank you for tuning in today. Again, it's Cassandra Good Kitchen here with you. We are sponsored by Paralegal Services Incorporated, streaming live right here from Westminster, Colorado. Everyone have a great day and keep it tuned in. We have a 24/7 playlist for you. Thanks again.